Good evening, I'm John Westbrook. I own some property that's over this aquifer. I don't understand why there's so much of an area that a landfill can be put in that's not over a water source that's so detrimental to such an area. My water is utilized not only for my family, my immediate family, but for other family members. I actually bring bottled water to their house because their wells are not as good as mine. It's not always because of things like this. It is because of the oil wells around the area, and that's understandable. But if I can prevent this from happening to my water source, then I need to know what I can do to stop it. This is what I know of, is to come to talk to you people to let you know that I disagree with putting it over my water system. I have a nice well system. I've never had any real problems with it, but I want to know when I have to stop drinking it because it gets contaminated from an area that you wouldn't know about for at least 2 or 3 weeks afterwards, if not longer. The system that you have set up for monitoring this is for the groundwater discoveries of the situation. That's fine, but you're going to be extracting that water, you're going to be testing it, limited testing, and it won't be on an ongoing system of a daily activity. Yes, you will be doing some testing, but not all of it. There's also the fact that the flooding issues. There has been numerous flooding issues in this area, in this state, that has not been identified as being 100-year floodplains, flood systems, or anything else. It's just FEMA has not identified the limitations of what's going on. And that's going to cause a real problem for this area because it flows right into the rivers that we have, as well as the aquifers recharge areas that once it comes off of this thing. There's too many unknowns that we have to worry about. And I've got a granddaughter that is just starting out to be 2 years old. I don't want her to have to worry about what she's going to have to work with when she gets to be my age, if she gets to be that old. Thank you.
Thank you. Followed by Nancy Ryan, followed by Doug Parker.
Good evening again. My name is Bill Carlwood. I'm not going to comment about technical aspects. I did that 2 years ago. But I do thank you for the opportunity to address the meeting in strong opposition to the application 2378. I address you as an interested party, directly and personally affected by your decision in this matter. My property is at 685 Nixon Road, directly across Nixon Road from the proposed dump site. By way of introduction, let me state that my great-grandfather, Robert T. Nixon, arrived with his family at this site in 1854, and the land has been in continuous agricultural operation by our family for the last 160 years. I am here to address the appearance of impropriety. In a civil society and a representative republic such as ours, it is vital for the proper functioning of that society that the citizens being governed respect the institutions of government. The citizens must trust that the government will act honestly, fairly, openly for the public good, according to an accepted set of rules and laws. However, the public good must be balanced by respect for the rights of the individual. Without the glue of respect and trust, this civil society will unravel. I learned the importance of the appearance of impropriety versus actual impropriety when I too worked for a state agency. I was a Texas state trooper in a very small South Texas town. One of the first things my new sergeant said to me when I arrived was that if I were going to have a drink, I need to do it in private or do it outside the county. His reasoning was that if I take a drink in public and drive home, I give the appearance of impropriety, even perhaps when there was no impropriety. This is especially true when a significant part of your duties is DWI enforcement. Now, you may be wondering what all this has to do with tonight's business, and that's a fair question. But I'm making a very distinct and specific point. If government at any level fails to conduct itself according to its own predetermined rules and standards, or acts in any other way that gives the public reason to believe that that conduct is arbitrary, unfair, unethical, or in any way preferential, then that government has abjectly failed to live up to its responsibilities as part of a civil society and a representative of the public. I realize that the final act of this sad drama is yet to be played, so I'm a hopeful man, and I pray that the second act plays out more to your credit than the first has. Well, I cannot know if there was actual impropriety, whether there was some act or omission or thing of value exchanged or promised, or whether there was any undue influence offered or threatened. I do know this. The appearance of impropriety hangs in this room like a vile cloud. And it's the reason why there are not nearly as many people here tonight as there was 2 years ago, because they're just flat exhausted and discouraged. The anger that you hear from most of these here tonight comes not from the fact of the millions of dollars that Mr. Funderburg stands to gain from this process, or the fact that it will be directly offset by the devaluation of their land and their property and their way of life, although that may have some influence. Actually, the source of the anger is from the frustration of citizens who dearly love our society and want to trust their government as represented by your agency. They have been sadly disappointed thus far. Heretofore, in this matter, TCEQ has abjectly failed to avoid the appearance of impropriety by failing to comply with its own rules as agreed following the Sunset Advisory Commission review of TCEQ. It was then found that the actions of TCEQ in handling of permit applications were arbitrary, unfair, and wasteful of the public's hard-earned tax dollars. The Sunset Commission found that TCEQ was arbitrary in its treatment of applicants. Some were held to strict standards, while others seemed to receive special assistance in the form of excessive numbers of notices of deficiency, or NODs, issued. This had the effect of TCEQ staff essentially spoon-feeding the applicant to an acceptable application. How is that different from this application? The agreed number of NODs was 2, after which the application was to be returned without further action. For application 2378, the first NOD was issued 2/27 of 2012. The second NOD was issued 6/4 of 2012, and I will read one brief sentence from it. Please note, we did not anticipate granting an extension of time to fulfill this request. In addition, be aware a third technical notice of deficiency will not be issued. Also refers to application revisions due within 54 days. This was on 6/4 of 12. Well, then on 9/4 of 12, the third NOD was issued. In fact, there were other letters sent to the applicant with hints, and even the third NOD still had items which the applicant had failed to address from the first and second. Now, with parts 3 and 4 submitted, another NOD has been issued recently on 2/26 of 2014, and still has unresolved issues from parts 1 and 2. Additionally, what could be more arbitrary than prohibiting a dump on or near the recharge zones of the Edwards Aquifer while failing to provide the same protections to the Carrizo-Wilcox Aquifer, which serves also a large percentage of the state's population? The Sunset Commission said TCEQ was unfair in its allocation of time in which to present a complete proposal. Given an unlimited amount of time, even the most incompetent applicant could stumble across what would pass for a complete application. I submit that application 2378 would be a prime example of that possibility. The time frame agreed upon was a matter of 75 days. The original application was submitted December of 2011. It was not judged complete until April of 2013. Perhaps April 1 would have been more appropriate, as April Fool's Day seems to apply. 16 months after submission, even counting only business days, that's a stretch for 75 days. Now it is more than 2.25 years since the application began, and is still not complete. This is a complete travesty of the application process, and brings us to the third point mentioned by the Sunset Commission, the waste of tax dollars expended by TCEQ on the poorly managed, tragically deficient, perilously located, oozing pustule of an application, has surely wasted huge sums of TCEQ staff time and effort and payroll. Mine is not in my backyard objection to this. Proper sanitary landfills are a necessary part of modern life. However, this dump, nor any dump, should ever exist over a significant aquifer or near its recharge zones or in the drainage systems of a major river like the Guadalupe. It will eventually fail. I simply ask you that when it does, where do we millions of Texans who use this water go to get our fresh water? What are your plans for cleaning up the aquifer? You will be long out of this picture, as will the applicant. My family will not. Who will we turn to then?
Thank you.